Well, welcome back to a new school year. I've got two of the MCs, Kyron English and Blake Simmons. We're really glad to have you back. They're going to help me today. I'm going to actually talk to quite a few people, and they're going to help us MCs. So hope you enjoy our convocation. I know it's much different than anything we've done, but we appreciate you tuning in, and these two guys are going to really help me get through the day. Thank you.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave, brave.
Tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me, when did you start in the district? How long have you taught? Kind of that background stuff.
Okay, yeah. So I actually started out as an educational interpreter for the deaf,
Okay.
interpreting sign language.
Very well.
Started out in Bartlesville School District.
Okay.
Interpreted there for a year, one-on-one with a deaf student, and then there was an opening at Edison Middle School. They had a large group of deaf boys actually coming up from from elementary school to middle school, and so they needed to add an extra interpreter, and I got that job, went with them 6th, 7th, 8th grade as an
Okay.
interpreter, 9th grade, and then decided I felt like I was being called to be a teacher. In my probably naive mind, I thought, I think I can do this better than some.
Sure, sure.
That's a terrible thought to have,
Yeah, I
kind of
understand.
big-headed, kind of egotistical, but I thought I think I can maybe provide a little bit better education, or on par with those that I saw as,
Right.
as good teachers.
Right.
And it was cool because I got to see a ton of different learning styles, a ton of different teaching styles, and see what worked and what didn't. The
Okay.
discipline in the classroom, the engagement.
I know that you watched a lot of people teach. So tell me how that really created the idea that, I can do this. I'm going to take some different kinds and styles of different
Yes.
people's
Approaches.
approaches and that kind of stuff. So tell me about that.
Yeah, so I remember one teacher that I interpreted for. The teacher was very animated, very engaging, but also very disciplined, very structured. There was always, he was go from first bell to second bell teaching, very structured. The students knew exactly what to expect when
Right.
they came in the classroom, but it was hard. It was a tough class. Another class that I interpreted that same year, there was never a plan. Well, there was a plan. Monday, Tuesday, they took notes off the board with the teacher sitting there clicking to the next slide. Students were able to do exactly whatever they wanted. They could play, they could talk, they could throw things, whatever. And I remember asking students at the end of the year, who's your favorite teacher? And it was always the one that was harder, but was structured, was engaging, those sorts of things. And so that's what I learned, that students crave structure. Students crave engagement. And they really, though they don't want to say it all the time, they crave education. They crave learning things that are relevant to their lives. And so that has shaped me as a teacher in how I teach. I take things that are interesting to them. I take things that are going to be engaging, and I use that to teach whatever concept I'm going to teach that day.
So tell me, with the new things that are happening in our country and across really the globe, do you feel like that you're prepared for what you're getting ready to embark on? I mean, we're probably going to go into some type of virtual setting at some point. So tell me how you kind of thought through that.
I am in a way grateful for what we had at the end of last year, that kind of getting our feet wet into it, where we didn't really know what we were doing, we were feeling our way, but we had to learn very quickly. And so we had that time at the end of last year to get ready for this year in a way. And so I'm really grateful for our team at the 7th and 8th grade academy, and how there's so many different minds coming into this and throwing out ideas. I mean, all of that time period at the end of the school year last year, and then during the summer, teachers have been texting each other, emailing each other, giving each other ideas on how to teach virtually. We found a program, Loom, where we can record ourselves teaching a lesson, and the students can go on and watch it. It's very simple, very easy to use. You know, things like that, the techniques and tools that we have to use. But I think the number one thing that for me is a concern, or what I have to focus on, is relationships. We've got to keep the relationship aspect of this, and that's why I'm grateful that we're going back for a week at least, real time or face to face, and then taking our first virtual week, because I thought, if we come into this virtually, how do you build relationships? How do you start out that way? And so we've got that time to build those relationships and get things going before, and get some things established as far as technology and all of those concerns and needs, but then we can transition over to the virtual side of it. So I think that's the number one aspect, is building those relationships with those students. So
it was announced while everybody was home last year that you were named as District Teacher of the Year. It was kind of a different event. I watched a little bit online about showing, people coming by your house, and they were doing a little parade and all that. So tell us a little bit about that and how that made you feel.
That was incredible. It was incredible because I was completely blindsided, and that doesn't happen very often, especially with Ryan Buell as my principal. We have a great relationship, and he doesn't hide things very well. So I knew something was going on just based off of a conversation that I overheard and things like that, but I had no idea that was going to happen. And then all of the work that went into it behind the scenes with the teachers, with my wife, and all of her involvement and things, seeing people from my church pull through, and people that I hadn't seen in years come through that line, was just incredible. But yeah, I can't say enough how that made me feel. I was just very grateful for all the work that went into that.
I think I saw where you had one of your children holding one and waving and trying to talk to people. And
my wife, it was so funny that morning. We'd get up, and I planned a day at the lake. We were just going to go to the lake. We were going to relax, have a great day. And she's like, "Why don't we just wait until afternoon this morning? We can kind of just take our time getting around." And she kept. I had on the shirt that I was wearing. It was something we gotten from Florida. We gotten all matching. And so she's like, "I really want," she kept talking to Conrad, my son, my 3-year-old. "I want you to wear this shirt." And he wants to wear Paw Patrol or something else. And she's like, "No, I really want you to wear it." And I'm thinking, we're going to the lake. Why are we worrying about this? Yes. So and then it all came together in my mind. All the puzzle pieces fell into place.
It's like,
later.
Oh my gosh, here we go. Well, tell me, you've moved and really bought into the culture in Muskogee. Tell me how that's played out. I know you've been in different districts, so that's really gives you a kind of a good view. Tell us about kind of what you're seeing here and what you're seeing in Muskogee right now.
Yeah, absolutely. When I started talking about moving here, there is an outsider's view of Muskogee.
Sure.
And then I moved here, and I think this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. I love the town. I love the direction that it's going. I definitely see things coming up, just like the bond issue passing.
Right.
There's a different viewpoint on our school district
Right.
now than, from what I understand, has been in the past.
Right.
The town itself, it seems like you're beginning to see some really positive changes come into play. I'm excited to see the direction that Muskogee's going. You see a lot of. I came here and I was floored by all the beautiful houses, beautiful buildings that
Yeah.
Some of them have been kept up, but there's a lot of them that have fallen into disrepair. But I've been seeing, especially in my neighborhood, people starting to buy those and fix them up a little bit,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful to see some new jobs come in and different things that can really build up this community. But as far as the school district itself, coming from other school districts, I've never seen the team atmosphere that there is here.
Right.
You know,
Right.
everybody's all
Right.
supportive of one another. And you can see that as Buell likes to use the ocean liner. He has a lot of analogies, but that's probably one of his favorites. Just the ocean liner, we're trying to turn something around. And it's so cool to be a part of that and see new teachers coming in and being excited and really buying into this culture of, we have a lot of students here that are very different from other school districts. You have a lot of needs here that
Right.
it takes a special individual, a special teacher to be able to reach those needs. And I see a lot of that coming in, just this excitement and buying into that culture of, all right, let's lift these kids up. So it's been
That's
pretty
good.
amazing.
You know, I think you're so right. I mean, there's a lot of work to be done, but I'll tell you, they're excited. I mean, I've never seen the excitement of a community really at this level. So, tell us a little bit about what you'd like to tell your colleagues. I know this is an honor,
Yes, it is.
and we're really this interview is going to be broadcast to all of the different teachers in the district. So, what would you kind of like to say to them? I mean, I know that this is going to be an unprecedented year.
Absolutely.
But maybe kind of give them some update on what you just feel like what's on your heart, what you'd like to tell them.
I've thought a lot about that. The main thing that I would like to see from us this year is to have a positive, unified message. It is going to be a tough year. Positivity is going to be what carries us through. And coming together as a team, I have thought a lot about this summer. I had a remark made last year, towards the end of the year, where a teacher said, "How do people expect us to make a difference in students' lives when we only see them 1 hour a day?" And I thought, if we would all be unified in the message and the vision that we have, we aren't seeing a student 1 hour a day. We're seeing a student 8 hours a day, probably more than most of them see their parents. And so if we can all come together with that same vision, then we can really make an impact on these students' lives. And that comes into play even more so right now, because not only is there the pandemic, there's unrest in our country like very rarely has been seen in our history.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to be on message, positive, with the same high expectations that we've always had, but also understanding the whole student. Our students have to have people who are teachers who will look at them as students and not as test scores. Look at them as young people that have a life outside of school. Yes, academics is so important, but one thing that we've stressed over at the 7th and 8th grade academy is that it's culture over content. Yes, content is important, but culture is even more so. And in this time when students are going to be at home a lot more, when they're going to be maybe not around their friends as much, their social well-being is at stake. We have to really be looking at all of those different things, not just their health, not just their physical health,
Right.
their mental health, their social health. how we can be a support to them when we're not face to face with them every day. That's something we really have to figure out and have to figure out fast. Because if they don't feel comfortable enough with us to come to us about things, then we will have a problem that is bigger than anything we've thought. You know, we're hearing, we got to get back to school. We got to get back to school. You know, the CDC even says we've got to get kids back in school for their mental well-being and things like that. And I absolutely believe that. But at some point, that may not happen, and we've got to get that piece of somehow supporting them when they're not in school. But I think just the main thing that we have to remember is that there's a reason we're here. We're here because there's students that are going to learn things from us that they're not going to learn anywhere else. And I'm not talking about academically. I'm talking values. I'm talking work ethic that we have to instill in our students. And if we're not all doing that, then you're right. Our students are only seeing us 1 hour a day.
Speak to this. I think right now our country is in such at odds with each other. There seems to be two sides that are being kind of put together, and you can't believe in one thing if you don't believe in the other. I'm real nervous about this and how we're having conversations about this on TV and other places. Just tell me what you think is that answer.
Yes. I think that we have to show our students that we are going to accept them in our classroom and let them know that whether they're conservative, whether they come from a liberal family, whether they come, whatever their beliefs or opinions or ideas are, that's not what we're speaking to.
Right.
That it does not matter their background, we're going to accept them in our classroom. We have to just understand that people think differently, people are raised differently, and we have to allow them to be the person that they are.
Well, I'm really glad to get to talk to you today, because I'll tell you, just when I listen to you, I can tell your heart is really what really guides who you are and what you do. I would be proud to have one of my own children in your classroom and learn from you.
Appreciate that.
Now comes kind of the fun part.
Okay.
We have Jackie Hill today.
Okay.
I think she's the outgoing teacher of the year.
Okay.
So Jackie, would you come on up here real quick? I think she has the vehicle that you're going to actually get to drive.
You're going to have so much fun this year. I'm so proud. Listening to you, you definitely did well-deserved honor.
Thank you.
The town of Muskogee, really, the positivity that I saw around town, you're going to get honks and thumbs up when you're sitting in the line.
That's great.
Just to be able to communicate and spread positivity about our district.
We really appreciate you. We're glad that you were chosen by your peers. And Jackie, we're proud of you as well and appreciate what you've done. So everybody, this is Matthew Catlett, our new teacher of the year. We're really proud of him, him representing our school district. So thank you and have a great day.
Here she is! So congratulations, well deserved.
Very cool. Right. Oh, it's nice. Sweet. That is a nice ride right there.
Congratulations to the Teacher of the Year. Up next, we're going to be interviewing the Mayor of Muskogee, Marlon Coleman. He was elected as the first African-American mayor in Muskogee's history. He grew up in Louisiana, and then he worked for the federal government for most of his career, where he finally moved to Muskogee and became the pastor at Antioch Baptist Church, and finally campaigned for mayor, where he won with one of the highest voter turnouts in Muskogee's history. So you're the recently elected mayor of Muskogee.
Yes.
And the first African American mayor in our history.
Yes.
And with everything going on in our country, do you feel the weight on your shoulders?
I do, because I think that Muskogee spoke volumes in terms of electing me as the first African American mayor with so much civil unrest going on across the country that has racially divided us as Americans. And Muskogee spoke with one voice, with great clarity, that we're looking at the person, that we want qualified, we want a leader, we want someone who we can trust. And so even being the first African American mayor, that puts more pressure on me that during the time of such unrest, that people will still look past color. And so that's a lot of pressure when people want to perceive that you might have been elected because of that. And so I think that they wanted to see someone that can lead, that they didn't judge me on pigmentation, they judged me on presentation, being able to present a clear message of hope for the city of Muskogee, which is what we hope to project.
So, as Blake Simmons, him being president of Muskogee High, young Republicans, myself, young Democrats, we oftentimes find ourselves telling students at Muskogee High, let's perpetuate a culture of bipartisanship, of a culture of, regardless of our differences, let's, agree to disagree. So what advice would you give us to take back to the high school that you've installed in the city?
I think what we want to say to high school students is that at the local level, as well as at the state or national level, that party should not take the place of priority. So when I say that, I mean that people should look at what their priorities are for their community. At the local level, I think it's even more important that we don't look at party.
As you look at the community, what are some things that you think that you observed from Muskogee High that really define your outlook on my legislation for the community?
I think in terms of Muskogee High School in particular, what we want to be focusing on is, one, how do we work with the school districts to keep young people safe? Because that's a big topic right now. How do we protect their mental well-being? Because so many young people are going to choose to go to online learning. A lot of people are going to go back. Well, somewhere in there's going to be a divide, even down to our psyche in terms of how do I feel if I elected to go to school with so many of my friends who stayed home. I think that's going to be a lot of emotional trauma. And I think what we want to do is focus on trying to help schools to be successful.
Muskogee is being one of the most diverse school districts worldwide, financially and racially. So, going based off of your experiences, what advice would you give someone, a student at Muskogee High that comes from the same demographics as you and grew up in similar situations as yourself?
I would try to get them to understand with everything going on in today's climate, as much as humanly possible, not to be racial. As much as humanly possible, not to be racial. Now, that doesn't mean to be foolish and look at people and say, I don't see black and white. Well, we're not opaque either. I mean, we're not invisible or transparent. You see color, but how? How do you see that? And so I would encourage, with the numbers of diversity that we have, with the types of administrators, I mean, Muskogee is almost as diverse as they come for Northeast Oklahoma. Encourage people as much as possible, don't be racial, because being racial can easily lend itself to being racist. And when that happens, it doesn't matter how much diversity you have, it'll never work.
So as a public servant, you have to sacrifice for growth. And you grew up going to public education. So looking back, what advice could you give to students and teachers about sacrificing for growth in our school and community?
I would tell them that every sacrifice for growth is worth it, because going to school is a challenge. Learning is a challenge, but it's a necessary challenge. And in terms of sacrificing good for evil, so I've got to give up some things that are going to hold me back in exchange for things that are going to make me better. So studying, making certain that they have the right friends around them, all those are key components. The same way with our teachers, who make the greatest sacrifice. Teachers are grossly underpaid, grossly disrespected, and grossly unappreciated. They make a great sacrifice, however, to get up out of their beds. Many of them stay late beyond their required hours. Those are sacrifices that are needed in the education system, and they're well worth it. I have 4 degrees, bachelor's,
business, master of business, master of theology, doctor of theology. It took sacrifices for that to happen. I mean, nobody gave me, I wasn't raised in the era where we're just gonna give you a credit. No, we had to work. And when I was going to school, there were no iPads. I mean, it wasn't all this technology that we have now. You had to write a paper. I mean, there was no, all this digital stuff. I mean, we had to work hard. That was sacrifice. And I would say to young people, as well as their teachers today, that any sacrifice that's going to grow another person or grow yourselves is certainly worth it.
I want to thank you for being here and for sharing all that and for, taking the challenge of being our mayor in such a challenging time and making that sacrifice.
We'd like to thank you for being here and not only saying how your experience as a mayor has helped you, but we can take those as our experience as high school students, as how we can contribute that to our community. Thank you.
Thank y'all for having me, because you could have invited anybody, but I'm always glad to be here.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. I don't know about you, Blake, but I always love having someone from Muskogee represent the M like he just did.
Oh, absolutely.
So, do you remember the other day when we had the panel discussion?
Yes, at the high school.
Yes, I loved it. What message do you think you took from that?
I think the message I took was taking panelists from students from every background and being able to have, common vision, the common goal. We were able to discuss our different ideas to the teachers, giving our students perspectives.
One thing I personally loved about it is it's important in the classroom atmosphere you have the input of students. Because there's certain things, rather you have the most educated teacher from the most prestigious university, sometimes the simple knowledge of a student can take you so much further than what you thought you already knew before entering that classroom. So that's one thing I loved about the panel is we're able to tell teachers what it is that we think defines a good teacher.
I completely agree. Well, are you ready to share it with the entire school?
Let's check it out.
All right.
Two of my favorite classrooms I was part of were both history classes, and they were taught by Diane Walker and Jack Revis. And a lot of times when we talk about the recognition that, or lack of, that Muskogee gets, these are two of the only teachers in the state that are both nationally certified teachers. They treat us with respect, I'd say, in our class. It's seen as a class that's a preparation for adulthood. You're taught at a college level. Mr. Revis' class, every day you're going to have lectures. It's not going to be busy work. It's going to be something that mimics that of a college atmosphere. So I think not only do we incorporate citizenship and a preparation for adulthood, but there's ultimately respect there as well in the classroom.
Miss Walker's class had a really big impact on my high school career, and mainly because it seemed like a family in that class, because it wasn't just every day you come in, you learn a lesson, and you work, but we had conversations with the class that would go along with what we're learning about. That way we get closer with each other and we get closer with the teacher, and that has an impact on the students in the class that want to be there every day and they want to be involved and they want to learn.
I had an English teacher back in 8th grade. His name was Mr. Sutmiller. He taught us on a different level. It wasn't just about reading the information and writing about it. It was, what did you get out of it? How does it make sense to you? What did you understand that the author was trying to convey? And I just feel like, for me personally, that made a difference in my life, to be able to look at things with a different picture in all situations.
They have pushed me to find what makes me unique and to find my passions and to follow those, because they are the foundation. Mrs. Seitz made it a point that we learned about the architecture, that we learned about the language, that we learned about everything that umbrella is.
I feel like teachers who don't get to know their students one-on-one, or they think they get to know their students one-on-one, people react very differently in very different ways. So when you tell that student that is always going to need that extra encouragement, that they're not doing good enough, because you see that the other student, when you told them that, pushed their way harder so to prove you wrong. It just doesn't work the same. So really building a relationship with each student individually and learning how they respond to your actions is what's going to help them.
Honestly, just to piggyback off of what Aspen said, you had said, how do you get to know 150 kids? Well, every great thing in this world started with one conversation. One conversation can change anybody's life. It just takes that small commitment. Okay, I'm going to talk today. I'm going to try to get to know my student today.
For pick times during the day, we'd meet with a few students every day at individual times, and you just talk with them, how's high school, how are you doing? You're getting to know a little bit more about them, and they're getting to know about you, and you also get feedback for your class as well.
having a lot of students, it's hard to connect with each one individually. So if you can't connect with students on a personal level, like always try to get to know their learning language, I guess you could say. So a lot of times when you can get to know each student's learn language, or a lot of students have the same learning language, but more just understood than others.
Especially if they're trying to give us what we call, busy work. And then they get mad at us when we're not doing the busy work. Well, we're not going to put in our 100% if you're not going to give us yours. So.
She said what she said.
And I think that sometimes there's nothing wrong with telling a kid, I don't know what we're doing today. I'd much rather a teacher tell me, hey, I had a rough night at home, or if you're a coach or something, I just had a long game, so I really don't know what we're going to do today, rather than you just pulling something out of the air. So there's nothing wrong with telling a kid, hey, I need a little bit more time to prepare my lesson for the day.
We see as students and as teachers things here that no one else sees. We see the goodness in people, we see how bright each other are, we see the good ideas. But when you go to other schools, and not even just around here, but around the state, you ask them, what do you think about Muskogee? And most of the time, you don't get very good answers. We might have something going on, but we just put it on positive, and talk good about Muskogee instead of always talking so bad about it. And I think that's kind of how we start to change that.
We go to one of the best schools in the state. And I feel like if we don't make sure that people know that, we sell ourselves short. If we keep painting our school in a, oh, it's okay, light, then that's what everybody else is gonna see. But if we say, I love my community, I love my school, I love my peers, I go to one of the best schools in the state, I feel like that will start pushing the narrative, well, maybe Muskogee isn't so bad, maybe it is a good place.
You want to air the positives about your school first to change the perception.
You're always going to be heard by someone. Someone is always watching you. They know you're a teacher at Muskogee, you're a student at Muskogee, you have the Muskogee gear on. So wear it with pride. Just remember, people do watch you, people do notice what you do.
It's all what we put out, so a lot of the times I think that the most important thing is getting the students to believe that we're better. What can we do to make our image better? Asking ourselves that question was something that fixed a lot of things last year, because we changed the minds of not only me but many other students.
I think that students and parents alike need to know that you all are giving them the opportunities to make it the decision that they feel best for them, and that you all are setting standards, and that this isn't in your control, because this is something new for everyone.
I don't think any one of us really know what we should do. Numbers change every day, new symptoms come out every day, different advisory rules from the CDC comes out every day. So I feel like all we can do is really just trust our leadership. I feel that Dr. Mendenhall has my best interest and everybody else's best interest in this room and across our community. I don't feel like he would purposely put us in a situation where we were unsafe or unprotected.
One of the things that kept me wanting to go to school every day was peers. What one teacher did, one of my college teachers, they opened up a little thing to where they could grade our stuff, but also we could comment on videos and links and assignments that other peers turned in. If we do go virtual, that we should try to keep is peer-to-peer interaction, because I feel like when I'm not getting to talk to other students and when I'm not getting reactions from other students and feedback from other students, that I don't feel genuinely as great as I did before, if that makes sense. So learning from peers is one thing that I think has helped.
I personally feel like we are one of the most change-seeking generations, and that comes from an emphasis on understanding what may be normal to your generation may not be normal for our generation. So sometimes it all starts with something as simple as understanding the perspective of another student. Sometimes when you're dealing with different cultures, different religions, different races, different ethnicities, you have to think of, okay, I need to be more understanding of where they're coming from, and I need to put myself in their shoes.
Personally, whenever I watched the video of George Floyd being murdered, it scarred me for life, honestly. But if you really think about it, a protest is a cry for help. And I really feel like that cry for help is, if I'm murdered unjustly, can I please get justice? I don't really feel like Black Lives Matter, the movement, is saying all lives don't. It's saying we need your help because we're in danger. And I feel like our generation mostly, we kind of use the different tools that we were given. We have to learn, okay, if I'm wrong, correct me.
It seems like with everything going on right now, there's two sides. But you don't have to be a part of a side because you can support both causes, because it seems like law enforcement's on the other and then all the protests and movements are on the other, because it feels like I'm in a weird spot because though my dad's a policeman, my grandpa was a policeman, but then on the other side it's sickening to see the George Floyd video, and obviously there are policemen that kind of, but it's not like the entire law enforcement of the country, so it's just kind of seeing both sides, but not really, you don't have to pick a side to move forward and to bring change. You don't have to pick a side. You can still be for change and forward progress by being in the middle.
Completely respect what Blake is saying, but I think as far as curriculum, we need to put an emphasis on, too many Americans today think that's too messy, so I don't want to pick, or that's too messy, or that's too political, so I don't want to get involved. So I think we can start a curriculum with, it's okay to choose a side, but first, what needs to come with that is respect. You can support this, you can support this, but what we need to do is put an emphasis on respect. So there's nothing wrong, I'd say, with particularly choosing a side or feeling passionate about something, but what needs to come with that is the emphasis on respect, of respecting the opposing side.
It's always good to give the history about whatever you're talking about first, because at least if you're going to let your students develop an opinion or develop a side, at least you want it to be their own. And you know that they made it based off of your teachings. As long as you're teaching like respect and then teaching the history behind something, I feel like it's okay for everybody to have their different opinions. So.
Morning, guys. Blake Simmons, Dr. Mendenhall, and myself are going to interview one of Muscogee's most prestigious alumni, Brooke Thomas. Brooke Thomas is a journalist and TV host. She takes the internet and journalism world by storm on the red carpets for Daily Mail, TV and digital talk show. She's hosted multiple pop culture shows. I myself have watched her, and she's quick on her feet, and she's hard to back into a corner. Brooke began her career as an intern on Access Hollywood in Los Angeles. She has served as a co-anchor of the CBS affiliate in Philadelphia, and she has also served in other areas such as Dallas, Texas, Tennessee, and North Dakota news outlets. Brooke, wherever she goes, she mentions how proud she is to be a Muskogee alumni. Brooke is a proud graduate of Muskogee High School and a 2009 graduate of the University of Oklahoma's Gaylord College of Journalism and Mass Communications. We are proud and extremely thrilled to have Ms. Brooke Thomas with us today from Los Angeles, California.
To start off, just tell us a little bit about what you're doing now. I know that you're from here, but would love to know a little bit about your history and a little bit what you've done.
Absolutely. So I guess a little bit about like what I'm doing. I'm a journalist, and so I've been working in TV news for about 10 years, maybe a little longer. I get so confused. I think around like year 6 or 7, I started saying around 10 years and then stopped actually counting. But it's been a little while, and I've worked all over. I live in Los Angeles now. So I live and work in Los Angeles, but I've worked all over. I started my very first job out of college. I went to OU, so I'm a Sooner.
All right,
and,
Boomer.
My very first, Boomer Sooner. My very first job was in North Dakota. So that was a total like culture change shock for me. And then I moved to Lubbock, Texas, and then I moved to Memphis, Tennessee, which is still probably one of the greatest experiences of my professional career. And then I moved to Dallas, Texas, which felt like home. And then I moved to Philadelphia. And now I'm in Los Angeles. So I've lived and worked all over. This career is kind of like you kind of have to crawl before you can walk and walk before you can run. I think I'm jogging now, maybe like a slow jog. I'm power walking now.
Well, let me introduce my
not
guest.
even running.
Let me introduce my guest to you, and they're going to ask you a few questions, and we'll kind of go from there. I've got Blake Simmons here.
Hi.
And we have Kyron English. Kyron English is here with us. And so we're going to start off with Kyron. I think he's got a couple of questions for you.
Okay. So, as someone who wants to go into journalism, my main question is, how do you maintain professionalism when you're like amongst a panel that doesn't see eye to eye with you at all, really, on anything?
I mean, I think that's hard. It's like Thanksgiving with your crazy auntie sometimes. Do you know what I mean? But I think like the cool thing about my job for me is I just want to stay honest. Right. I think that, and honesty gets skewed because a lot of people very deeply feel that their opinions are facts, or that a fact offends them, so it therefore is not a fact. But I think that you just have to be honest and be focused on the facts, and there are facts still to this day that offend a large group of Americans, and there are truths that offend people. People don't want to hear them, but I just, I think it's easy to stay calm when you're just focused on this is the facts, this is science, this is our history, this is, so it's not hard. I think if you're just focused on the facts.
Because I've watched you a little bit on shows like the breakdown and things, and I've seen people come at you guns blazing, and you've always maintained a smile and very professional.
That's really nice of you to say. I think sometimes I'm just like always glad to be there. I also think this is really funny that sometimes like how you feel, people cannot see that. I did an interview when I was in Memphis, and it was live. I was live out in the field reporting, and we were reporting on a story where, and it's not like, this is not a happy story at all, but it was a story where a woman had been stabbed and her kids had been kidnapped. It was a horrifying story, a scary story. At the point where I was reporting, the kids had been found, the police were still looking for the suspect. So they had a name, a description. That suspect walked up on me during my live shot and basically was just like, hey, my mom was watching the news this morning and said, y'all were looking for me. And so I interviewed him, and I was like, I felt like I was shaking because it just was, I don't know, I was just uncomfortable. This is like, this police said hours ago this person stabbed someone. But everyone who watched it, I felt like I was like shaking like this, and no one noticed anything. So sometimes it's all in your head.
Thank you.
So Blake, you got anything for us?
Yeah, so what life lessons from Muskogee has contributed to your success in your professional career?
What life lessons? You know what? I want to say, and this is really sappy, but kindness. I think, and always like being willing to do what you can to help someone coming up. I think for me, my family life is a little different than I think it's very similar to a lot of people, but also very different than like typical family life. I was raised by my grandparents, who were much older than your average grandparents. I'm in my early 30s, but my grandparents were born in 1921 and 1918. Wow. So I was raised by grandparents that are like 20, 30 years older than most of my friends' grandparents. And so I needed a lot of help. My mom lived states away, and me and my mom, we still had a great mother-daughter relationship. She just wasn't in Muskogee. So I needed lots of help. And so that meant aunts and uncles, older cousins, but that also meant a lot of teachers too. A lot of teachers still to this day, like Terry Bursay, Mrs. Bursay is like a mother figure to me. And Mrs. Humphreys, a lot of teachers over the years were willing to, and this is like for middle school, I'm willing to pick me up, willing to help me out with things. Teachers who paid for things. There were, teachers who gave me advice, teachers who helped me with my college applications, teachers who really became mother figures for me. And I feel like we had like 45 principals throughout. I don't know if anybody remembers what I graduated in 2004, and between those 4 years, I swear I had a different principal every 6 months. But I do feel like and there were really only like 2 or 3 of them, but I do feel like I became close to each of them. There was a big, even like Melanie Carey, Mrs. Carey, I never had her in class, and she was still like this space of kindness and obvious help if I needed it. And I think about that now when I think about, so if anyone calls me or they send me an email or a DM or something like that, someone like younger who's in this business, I always want to help. I send so many resume tapes of like girls in college to producers and my old news director at my first job because, I don't know, I want to be there, especially for like young Black women, because there weren't a ton of us in Muskogee. There aren't a ton of us in the business that I'm in. And I needed so much help, and I got so much help. And I think at the base of that, the root of that is just kindness. And so that's what I want to put that same energy.
Brooke, one of the things that we're struggling with here right now is with COVID-19, we're going to start school in session, and we're going to come to school for a week, and then we'll go virtual for a week. And so we know that depending on our outbreak and depending on how that plays out, it could be that we have a longer period of time for students to be at home. And I've always felt like relationships matter so much. It's not really the content that you are learning, it's really about the relationship with adults and those kinds of things. So speak to that a little bit. I mean, are you experiencing a little bit of that? I know that you guys have been shut down a lot out in California.
Not enough. If you look at the numbers here, it's roaring.
Really? Well, tell me what do you think about all that? I mean, give us your perspective on that at this point in time. I know that actually, I think you guys have done more in California than we're doing in Oklahoma, believe it or not. They're actually encouraging us to go back to school, and I've really been nervous about that.
Yeah, I think something that a lot of people all over have to come to grips with is that this is scary, and it's supposed to be scary. And there are things that we've moved through life that aren't supposed to be scary. You know, and I think that that's a normal, healthy thing to be afraid of something that unfortunately has killed 150,000 Americans, you know? And I also think something that's been, you know, so frustrating for me just watching this is just how little a lot of people seem to care about strangers' lives, whether it be students or teachers, you know, random people who work in restaurants, people who work at the grocery store.
Right.
This is scary, and I think that should not motivate us to be like, oh, I don't want to live in fear, but just to like, let's all do our part. That means staying home. If that means, you know, taking food and leaving it on your neighbor's porch, or offering to buy your elderly neighbor groceries, or you know what I mean? I think that's something that I wish more people were okay with, being afraid of something that's scary. It's wild. This should be something that we all agree on. Hey, this is scary. Let's work together to protect ourselves and our neighbors. And yeah, California has been really fascinating for me because this is a state that is not perfect, no place is, but that is very built on like consumer protection. Resident protections, people protection, and you see that in laws, from like our lemon laws to our environmental protection laws to how, for the most part, we've handled this crisis that we're all living in, at least from early on. I think there has been, for me, a lot of talk about what students need and kids. And I think about that because I think about, I was really lucky, you know, I had a grandmother at home. She was at home all day who loved me, and aunts and uncles, and like I said, other teachers, but I think that oftentimes when we talk about school, we don't add as much care and kindness to the adults that make the place move for the kids, who definitely matter a lot. And I wish that a lot of these conversations would shift to share some of the empathy to teachers and administrators and their families and their fears. And maybe some of the decisions would be a little different, but we'll see, right?
It's tough. I mean, you know, and I'm hearing a lot of things about what can we do to really keep our kids safe. I mean, we're doing everything in our power that we know. Of course, we've got the PPE.
That's what teachers do. That's what they're used to doing. Everything in their power to take care of the kids. Yeah.
Right.
So I'm not surprised to hear you say that.
Right.
I'm glad Dr. Mendenhall asked that question because I think it's in particular importance in scary times like these. But how do you maintain your position as a trusted news outlet regardless of the global distrust for media?
I think this job is such a blessing for me. I think it's really cool that this is what I get to do for a living. Like, this is how I pay my rent. Like, I get to talk to people. I get to share other people's stories. There's so many stories from different diverse communities and different people that are impacted in many different ways. And I think just a cool part about that is that we get to hear more about other people's lives, and I get to be a part of sharing that. And I also do a lot of work in this nice studio that faces my bed. Working from home is not so bad.
It's not, is it? It's not.
No.
So we know you're proud to be a rougher, and we are too, and we always like to spread that positivity. So how have you been able to spread the positivity about Muskogee?
Oh my goodness, you know what I always say? No one knows, anywhere that I've ever been, I feel like I'm the first person that anyone has ever met from Muskogee, Oklahoma. The only thing I know about it is like the song, like Okie from Muskogee. But I am really proud to be from this very tiny, tiny city that I didn't realize was that tiny until I branched out a little bit. And so when I talk about like where I grew up and how I grew up, people are like very surprised. And it's like, oh, I guess it was small. I guess so, huh? But I am very proud of where I'm from. It's so, you know what? I'm glad that I was able to like move out and move on and see so many other parts of this country. But I always tell people that I wish everyone had at least a grandparent that lived. Oh, I'm sorry. I wish everyone could have like a grandparent that lives in Oklahoma so that they could spend spring break there as they're growing up or something and roll around in the grass and maybe it'll snow because Oklahoma weather is that weird, but it's very green and I think I had a really happy childhood. People talk about, a lot of people rightfully have really rough childhoods and really bad memories, and I think I had a really positive childhood growing up, and obviously the majority of that is because of the people, but a lot of that is about like where I'm from and the experiences that I was able to have or not have based on where I'm from, and I wouldn't change that. So I don't know, as far as spreading positivity about Muskogee, I am really proud about where I'm from. I think that I had a lot of really, I feel like I'm rambling now, but I do feel like I had a lot of really great experiences growing up, and I'm really happy about that. I'm happy that I got to spend, all 18 of those years in the exact same place. And I have so many good memories. It's funny. So just by existing, because I am definitely the first person everybody that I have ever encountered meets from Muskogee, Oklahoma.
How many times do you think?
The short version.
Yeah.
How many times do you think someone's asked you? You don't sound like you're from Muskogee, Oklahoma.
Oh my God! Every time that's so funny because when I was from, I don't feel like most of us have accents, and I think that people think Oklahomans should sound like South Texans. I think we have words. We have a weird kind of culture, like we say things like fixna. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Digit is really like one word with a bunch of letters.
Right.
But I don't think we really have an accent. So when I was living in Memphis, people would always be like, "Oh my goodness, you have an accent." No, trust me, you have an accent.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
All of you have the accent. But,
Actually, not very far from here, over in Arkansas. I really think our Arkansas folks, really, you can tell they're from the South, and they do sound different, and they're not that far away. So
right.
Yeah.
And I also realized when I moved to Memphis, and my mom moved to Atlanta, and so I spent a lot of time there, that Oklahoma is not the South, it's the country. Because the South is a whole different place.
Yes.
I was like, oh, got it. This is the South. Makes total sense.
Right.
I grew up thinking I grew up in the South. No, I think I grew up in the country, and that's a good way to describe it.
Well, I want to also.
But we all sound exactly like Oklahomans sound. I think there is no accent. It's probably like a very egotistical thing to think that you're the one without the accent. But I mean, I really think that.
So tell us, what was the culture like when you grew up you went through Muskogee High School? I'm assuming you went there 9 through 12. At the time, it was probably 9 through 12. Just tell us a little bit about the high school, because we're going to tell you what has changed, because there has been a lot of changes. So, but we want to hear kind of through your lens, what it looks like.
Okay, so everything I did, I never switched schools throughout like growing up. So I went to Head Start, and then I went to, which I don't think exists anymore, right? And then I went to Harris Jobe Elementary School.
That no longer.
And then I went to AR. And then in 9th grade, I went to Muskogee High, and they had just made a change. It's funny, they made a change before I got there and then after I got there. So we went to, like, most of our courses were in G Unit, which was like up on the hill.
Yeah.
And there was also no parking for ninth graders. Like you couldn't bring your car if you were old enough to have one. And then I think I had a couple classes though freshman year in the other part of the school. And then my sophomore year, they changed, I think it was like E-Unit or something. I don't remember. They changed it and made it like the ninth grade center. So like the freshmen, my sophomore year, they all stayed in that building. It almost looked like they were like locked in. It was like very separate from I remember how weird that was. It was just so different. And then, yeah, I'm trying to think. So that's what it looked like, I think, by the time I left. And there's so many teachers that I wonder if you all still have who are so memorable, and just it's just Muskogee Heights its own thing.
Wow. You know, it's kind of interesting. We passed a bond issue. I don't know if you heard anything about that. We passed
A little bit.
Yes, $110 million bond issue. And so we're real excited about that. We're rebuilding a lot of things. Harris Jobe will become our early childhood center. So it's now, it was shut down as an elementary after you left, and really was a
Like how long ago?
It's probably been about 10 years ago, probably.
Wow.
And then we're going to redo it and actually make that an early childhood center. What's interesting is, I don't know if you know where Tony Getz was, the elementary. It has been completely demolished and redone, so it's being rebuilt as a brand new building. AR is completely been torn down and rebuilt.
I saw that.
Yeah, and it's being rebuilt as a freshman academy, and then we're getting a brand new stadium and field house at the high school. If you remember where G Unit was, which you do, just to the west of that, we bought that land next where Bacone College is, and that's where that's where the stadium will set. So the stadium.
This is great. So what happens to Indian Bowl?
The Indian Bowl will stay. It will still continue to be our track, and we'll do soccer there and junior high athletics. So it will stay.
Okay.
Okay. Weren't you in track, or didn't you participate?
I was a cheerleader.
You were a cheerleader, so you remember the Indian Bowl well, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Absolutely. So so you've probably done a lot of things on that track over your career.
Yes, and then also there was like a back track, like a little small workout track on campus.
Right.
Is that still there?
It is.
And then we had our little practice gym was in the basketball gym, but on the second floor, like up where the seats were, right to the left when you first walk in.
That's still there.
Yeah. It like looks like a wall.
Yeah, it's still there. Yeah, it's still there. So.
And then, this is so interesting. Yeah.
It is, isn't it? When you go away and really haven't thought about those things in so long, and now all of a sudden, it's all coming back to you. So to kind of, first off, we really appreciate you spending some time with us today.
This is really fun. This is great. I'm glad you had me. This is really fun. I'm glad that Cheryl reached out to me. This is really fun.
Good. Just to close out, tell us what you would like to tell teachers today. Kind of what, kind of parting thoughts. I mean, you're an example of why we do what we do. And to become a person of your stature and of your nature, to be able to go out into the world and really change the world is really, truly what you've done. And we're very proud of you, but we also, we want just a little bit of encouragement for our teachers.
Yeah, I think the first thing I just want to say, you matter and we appreciate you. And more of us should show that appreciation. And I think people talk a lot about bad teachers, right? Because bad apples exist in industry. Some cause more drama than others, but good teachers fight back against the bad teachers, right? That is something that I've seen growing up, something that matters to them. And when you, even like you saying, I think it's like really kind of you to say like about like changing the world, but I think that teachers they give you those tools. I think teachers help give you confidence. I think teachers, they start that process, especially if you get lucky enough to have some really great ones. Like they start that process. They are that backbone. You can't, for a lot of people, like become who you're supposed to be without that. And I think that I wish everybody in this country right now, I think would be, I can't say that enough, like just like doing what they can and saying what they can and reaching out and fighting for these teachers and their lives and, you know, their needs and their families. In all aspects, there's always going to be that little girl, that little boy that doesn't have, you know, everything that they need, everything that they could have. And there's always going to be those stories of those teachers who stepped in and helped fill in those spaces, and we don't get paid enough as it is, you know, and the very least we could do is give them their support, give them our support. And so I always say I think teachers should be the most paid individuals in our country, in any industry, who's most important, you know.
Right.
And yeah, I just think that, you know, there are so many of us out there that know how much you matter and truly believe that and are doing what we can to educate those who aren't there yet.
Well, Brooke, we appreciate you very much. We appreciate you taking the time with us today. I know that you're really busy, and we were able to kind of just take a little bit of time away from you. So thank you so much. Thank you for what you do. Please come back. We'd love to see you here. Yeah. We would love to see you. I mean, we'll open our stadium and everything probably in another year, and we would love to show you around and welcome you. We'd love to have you back. We've truly have started talking about some of our folks that are out there making a difference, not just in Muskogee or Oklahoma, but in the world. And you're one of those, and we would love to have you come back sometime. So thank you.
Thank you for saying that. I think you're going to make me tear up. I think I am really proud to be from where I'm from, and more importantly, I am so thankful for just those teachers who had my back and who stepped in and filled the holes and just provided so much love and care. And I think I had so many teachers. Like when I say that Mrs. Brosset became like a mother to me, I'm not just saying that. Like she really did. And still to this day, you know, her family became part of my family. So many teachers that did way more than they had to do, than was part of you know, the job description of even the best teachers. So many who just you know, just are willing to show you what you deserve and show you how kind people in this world can be. And that wouldn't have existed without Muskogee. And I think, like, I think about that. I think back, like, my biggest complaint, I think, is that I had to wear a uniform in middle school. So that's not pretty bad. Life's not that bad, right?
Yeah, that's right. Well, I tell you, we've got two young men here. Kyron is really going to be highly successful. I mean, you can already tell just the things that they do. And then, you know, it's both of them really try hard to do the right thing. Blake is also, one is the head of the Democrat club and one is the head of the Republican club. But they are able to have dialogue that our country can't have right now. And they have become really close friends, but they also have become spokesmen for Muskogee High School. And I can promise you the two of them, keep an eye on them, because they will either be politicians or they will be famous people. And they will make a difference like you're making a difference. That's why I wanted them to be here today and to really speak to you and listen to you and listen to your story. Because I do think that that's the kind of kids, the kind of students that we have here in Muskogee, people that are going to make a difference and an impact on this world. And so appreciate you guys being here. And again, we appreciate you, Brooke. And again, that invitation stands. If you ever are in town, please let us know. We'd love to show you around and really welcome you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Get on a plane as soon as I can get vaccinated for this.
Okay. Yeah, me too. Us too. We're not going to go anywhere soon for sure. So,
Right.
so thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you. This is a great start of the afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Okay, you saw today we had an opportunity to really speak with a Muskogee alum, Brooke Thomas, and we're really excited that she was able to come on with us. I just want to talk with both Blake and Kyron. We're going to talk a little bit about just what did you hear? I thought that was a really interesting interview. She had some good insight.
Well, I thought it was really inspirational to know her story. I mean, I didn't really know much about her, but I mean, I learned a lot today, and I think that she came from Muskogee, and that she's, I mean, really, like you said, went out and changed the world and showed, what we can do. I mean, that was really inspirational to hear as a rougher.
Okay, but you
From what I've learned from that is this is something I think Blake and I contribute in things we do is no matter where you are or where you go, always say you're proud to be a rougher. I mean, you can see she was in Los Angeles and she's still shouting she's a rougher. So regardless if it's Blake in the White House or me on the Supreme Court panel, we're both going to know that we're both roughers.
Well, I'm always very proud of our alumni and proud of you guys. I know that you're getting ready to go into your senior year, and there's a lot of future ahead for both of you. One of the things that I thought was so interesting is she talked about teachers and talked about how influential they are. Tell us a little bit about, Kyron, why don't you start off and tell us a little bit about kind of what the teachers here in Muskogee have meant to you?
That's an easy question because there's so many teachers here at Muskogee High that it's hard to name them all, but they've contributed to my success, so I'm sure they contribute to Blake's successes because they do much more than what's required from them as a teacher. I mean, Mr. Revis, for example, he's putting 3 girls in college as long as putting, I could say, 200 kids in college at the same time.
Right.
Because you can go and ask, them, hey, I don't know if this sounds right at my college resume. Can you help me take out this, or could you help me add this? So I think just there's a culture at Muskogee High where this may not be required of me, this may not be mandatory of me, but I'm going to do it because it's the kids that I have the best interest in.
Blake, what about you?
I can say honestly, I wouldn't be where I'm at today without the teachers. I mean, they've really contributed a lot, and like Kyron said, they do way more than what's required.
Right.
And they have a hard job because they're not a teacher from 8 in the morning to 3 at night. They are a teacher everywhere they go in the community, and they always show that, and they're always positive, and it's just such a hard job they take on.
Right. Well, let's kind of transition to the possibility that your senior year may be different. I mean, I can tell in your face, it's kind of like, oh man, I kind of like that traditional experience of having, going to school every day. There's a good chance that, we may have to be home at times. So tell me what your thoughts are about remote learning and distance learning and how that will play out.
So for my senior year, I wanted, to be traditional in school to have those experiences, but, our safety is much more important for our students, for our teachers. So, online, it's completely understandable that we do that.
What about you, Kyrie?
I think it's extremely important at times like this where we have to realize is we're going to have to make public accommodations for the greater good of everyone. So if that means I have to sacrifice the things I'd love to do as a senior for the greater good of society, it's important that we start that prep in high school because that's ultimately how adulthood is going to operate. So while I may love to do traditional schooling, I realize that accommodations we'll have to make for everyone.
It's going to be interesting. These are going to be kind of one of those things that may be just what we have to do. I mean, it's part of kind of to keep everyone safe, especially in our classrooms and those kinds of things. We're going to have to just understand that that's part of what we have to do in the new normal, I guess, if you will. Tell me a little bit about future. Blake, what do you want to do? What's your future plans? I know that you got to finish out high school first, but tell us about your future plans.
Well, right now, a couple weeks ago, I started my application for the Naval Academy.
Okay.
So I've been working on that, working on getting my congressional nomination. So I should find out around, March is the kind of the timeline.
Okay.
But after that, you have to, if I get in, you have to serve a minimum of 5 years in the Navy.
Okay.
So after that, I'm not really sure what I'll do. I'm sure I'll probably stay in the Navy a little longer. I mean, I want to be in the military, so that's probably just be part of my career. And after that, find something in public service to do and help our community.
Okay. Carl, how about you?
As Blake was stating, I've kind of started tweaking. I've finished the last of all of my college entry exams, all of those kind of hard college questions. I've applied to Brown, Berkeley, University of Chicago, and Harvard for early admission, so I should know those decisions back around November 1st. I'll get the decision back December, and after I go there, I plan on majoring in either political science and marketing or political science and journalism, and then I want to get in law, and my goal is to retire as Chief Supreme Court Justice.
Okay, very good. Well, I think both of you, there's no question, when you look at just the things that you've already done, you've been very successful. What would you give a lot of that credit to? I mean, when you think about the things that you've done and to this point in your life, tell me a little bit about that. Tell me how, some of that credit and how you've had that help. Karen?
This is funny you asked that because from my college essay, I talk a lot about what it means to be a rougher. And I think Muskogee High has taught me the moral attributes of hard work, responsibility, and gratification in the things that you do. So taking pride in where you come from and the responsibility of, hey, I have a reputation to maintain not only for myself, but for bettering my school. So I think Muskogee High has ultimately prepared me for college in a way that no other school in the nation could. And that's what I'm most thankful for about being from Muskogee.
That's great. But you?
Probably my community. I mean, I went to Hilldale pre-K through 5th grade,
okay.
And then I went to Glenpool 6th grade.
And we'll forgive you for that.
Okay, thank you. It wasn't the best part, but went to Glenpool my 6th grade, Fort Gibson 7th grade, and then I finally made it to Muskogee in 8th grade. I've been here ever since. So it was a crazy time of my life to be moving from school to school every year.
Sure.
But I can't be more grateful that I ended up at Muskogee because I don't believe any other school that I've been to offers the same things and would have created the opportunity for successes that Muskogee has.
Okay. So let's kind of end our conversation with this. What would you like to tell our staff and our teachers? I mean, I think right now it's been a time that like no other. And I know you guys are experiencing it as young adults, but we're experiencing it as adults and really in charge of trying to help and make a good experience for all students and all kids. So maybe kind of tell us a little bit about what you would like to say to those teachers and to those staff members. Want to go first?
Yeah. So I want to say thank you for everything you do. Anybody from the teachers to the support staff to the people who drive the buses, you all make a difference in making sure our school runs smoothly, and you do it all for the students, and we can't thank you enough for that. You all have very important jobs.
I'd like to thank you guys all. You all contribute to my personal successes. There's probably countless amount of kids, not just in our community or through our state, but globally that you've impacted some way or another. And sometimes you may not be able to see the small things you do, such as helping a kid with this, that, but it makes a great impact on society, and what you guys do are extremely important. And I thank you for that.
All right. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate your time and attention, and really appreciate you being with me to interview Brooke. I thought that was a great experience for you all, but also for me. I got to learn a lot about what she experienced here, and then also gives us a different view of really what Muskogee is. So thank you for that.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, good morning and welcome back. I tell you, this has been one of those years that has really been so unprecedented. The word COVID-19 is going to go down in history. I will imagine it will start coming out in dictionaries and every place else very, very soon. And won't it be interesting to see kind of what happens down the road? One of the things that I want to do is I want to talk to you a little bit about the year. I think that's the best way to start part of my conversation, and that is really talking about what it's going to be. And I'm going to tell you there's going to be three things I'm going to ask from everyone. One is be patient. I know that it's really hard because we're getting so much information and it's so rapid. So what I'm going to tell you is that we've got to be patient, number one. Number two, be flexible. I know that it's hard when we're changing classes and we're going from one style of traditional brick and mortar to potentially a virtual type of learning and model. But I think the best thing we can do is just be flexible and be honored to help people, and that's going to be very, very important. The third thing is give grace. I think we've got to give a lot of people what I call the benefit of the doubt. We're not perfect in this. We're making decisions and almost flying a plane we're building a plane as we fly it. As scary as that sounds, that's really some of the things that we're receiving so much information, but some of that information is good and some of that information is not as good. So we're really trying hard to really make good decisions for not only our students, keeping them safe, but also for staff and keeping them safe as well. So don't ever forget this. Everything is about relationships. No matter if we wind up going home for a period of time, I would tell you that relationships trump everything. And I think it's very, very important that we always focus on that. There may be a time that we go home for a period. Maybe it's 2 weeks, it might be 4 weeks, it might be 6 weeks. But I will tell you this, as teachers, and you've seen in a lot of our conversations that people have talked about teachers and how important teachers and their relationships are. Love the interview with Brooke Thomas. Brooke Thomas talked about how important it was as she grew up in Muskogee to have those relationships with teachers. And so I would encourage you to no matter what, develop those relationships first. Communications. I think one of the things I want to talk a little bit about is really communication and how that's going to flow. I have done what are called virtual town hall meetings every 2 or 3 weeks. Those have been very powerful in the fact that we've had anywhere from 6,000 to 10,000 people view each week or every other week on those. And so they have been great for communication. However, I have struggled just in the fact that it's not person to person, but this may be our best bet of trying to get that out and get information and accurate information. Don't forget, I'm going to try to always make sure that I'm listening to key people, and that is the State Health Department, the State Department of Education, and the Center for Disease Control, the CDC. All of those folks are telling us, go ahead, it's okay to go back to school. Now, I will tell you, there's color coding, we've done the counties, we've done all this information it's almost information overload. And we're taking all of that into consideration as we move forward. The questions that I'm getting is this. Number one, how many COVID-19 cases is it going to take to shut down one school? The answer is, I don't know. I cannot give you that answer. I will tell you that if you have a positive case in a classroom, we will have to do a lot of work and research basically to contact trace where that student was. So keeping records, making sure that we have seating charts in every classroom, doing those kinds of things are going to be more important than ever before. But I can't tell you that it's going to take 3, 4, 10, or 1 student to become COVID-19 positive for that school to be dismissed. What I will say is I will try very, very hard to communicate, even over-communicate with you and with parents. And so I want to make sure that you understand that. The second question I'm asked a lot is, do we have enough PPE? And the answer is right now is yes. We have the disinfectant. We have the wipes. We have the face coverings, all of those things that were, the temperature checks, all of those things are really important, and we have enough of that to start the school year. But I will tell you, as things go, I can't guarantee that will continue. I do know that the State Department of Education has more for us down the road, and that we will begin trying to contact them to get more of the PPE here. The other question is, does everyone have to wear a mask? The answer is, I'm going to say the short answer is yes. 3rd grade through 12th grade is going to be required. We're going to require masks of our teachers, of our staff, and we're going to require masks for our students. It's the right thing to do. We know that it helps the disease control, and so we're going to try really hard to make that happen. Now, there's caveats to that. We're about teaching and learning. I don't want students being punished because they don't have their mask. That's why we've purchased not only a mask for everybody, but also a cloth mask. But we've also purchased a lot of masks that are really disposable masks. So we definitely want that to take hold. The other thing is the pre-K through 2nd grade. Very, very important that they have masks, but there may be times that they can't have them up all of the time. It's going to be very hard for younger children to even understand. My hope is that we're coaching, even to this point, parents are coaching their little kids and their little children to make sure that they're putting their mask on and trying to at least practice and do this as we go. Yesterday, or actually last week, I noticed that the governor had a press conference, and in that press conference, he is mandating a monthly screening for all Oklahoma teachers. That is another question, and I'm going to be honest with you, this information is freshly hot off the press. I do not know how we're going to do this, but I will tell you that I'm in constant communication with the State Department of Education, and we will figure out what our process and what our mode of really getting tested and doing that. Don't forget, all teachers and staff are going to be required to take a temperature every single day. So we will have a location set up at every site, and you'll be able to take your temperature, and you'll need to sign off every day that your temperature is okay. Very, very important to all of us, making sure that we're keeping each other safe. The next thing is the instructional calendar. I know that just recently we approved the calendar, and the calendar basically pushed us out about 2 weeks. It was probably about 2.5 weeks. Our first day will be August 31st. Now, you're sitting here thinking, okay, it's the 3rd of August and we don't even start till the 31st. We've got a lot of time, and that is actually true, but I will tell you that one of the biggest caveats to that was the board at first was looking at it, and they tabled it because their interest was making sure that everyone received some type of check in August. If we don't work in August, you have to work before you get paid for the work. So what happened was that's why we kind of kept our days the same. Plus, our professional development had been done, already scheduled from the 3rd through the 7th. So we are doing August 3rd through the 7th. We're going to do professional development all 5 days, really front-loading that at the front of the calendar. The next week really is our 10th through the 14th. That week is really for Teacher Work Week. Getting your classrooms ready, and then everybody needs to contact staff, or actually contact parents. I think it will be very important that each parent and student is contacted. We will have back to school nights. Principals are coming up with these plans. This is not going to be a plan that will be done automatically. One of the thought processes was that the central office would develop this plan and push it out. But I do think because of the different needs at each site that was not as wise. So what we're doing is we're leaving it to the principal, and the principal will develop a plan at your site. So for instance, it may be that one elementary starts first hour, or their first grade will come on Monday, second grade would come on Tuesday, something like that. We don't know yet, but that's something that we felt like that each group would have to communicate with their own parents and do it from there. We have a booklet for everyone. This booklet is of our professional development, and really kind of gives you a list of everything that's going on this week through professional development. We wanted to do something that was very unique in the fact that it's more of a conference style since we were front loading. So I wanted you to know that each one of you will receive this book. We'll be 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the afternoon. So we'll start every day at 9 o'clock. We'll be 9 to noon, take an hour off, and then 1 to 4. So look forward to seeing each one of you out there. I'm coming out to kind of watch some of the professional development, but I really appreciate everybody participating in that. Just wanted you to know that. The other thing that is really important for you to know is that the summertime has not changed. I mean, for us, we had bond projects to get started, so we've been very, very busy. Tony Getz Elementary, you notice that it's been demoed, and we're rebuilding. You should see steel coming in out of the ground within the next couple of months, and it really takes shape, and then Tony Getz will be able to move back in. You're seeing at Alice Robertson the same thing. We demoed that facility, and it will become our freshman academy next year. And then Whittier has really changed. Those of you that have not been by Whittier, I would encourage you to drive by. I will tell you, we've torn down the area that was having the problems, and we're going to actually have kindergarten through the second grade from Tony Getz actually over there. And then the other students, really from Tony Getz, from third grade to fifth grade, are going to be at AR. I want to just remind you of this in closing. I encourage you to be strong. Stay strong. I know that this is a tough time. It's very unprecedented. We've talked about this. But I'm telling you, we're all in this together. And this too shall pass. I promise that it's going to be worth it at the end. And don't forget the relationship piece, because relationships trump all of the strategy that we may want to do. It's always about relationships. You are a part of the overall organization. In fact, what I did is I did a small graphic, and I want you to see this because I think it's so important for everybody to understand how important it is to me that we were all a part of the bigger picture. You'll notice that this is a puzzle piece, basically, and different puzzle pieces that basically make up the entire Muskogee School District. Every heart, every mind, every day, the Muskogee way. And if you look at this, it really makes a difference what you're doing. And it takes all of us to be involved in making sure that this works. So I will tell you, be a part of the process. Understand that it's going to be tough, but it's our kids. Our kids need us, and they need us to be a part of the bigger picture. So I implore you, please, as you're talking to parents, as you're talking with people, talk to them about the bigger picture. We are one community and one team, and I want you to be a part of that team. So I felt like the visual really brought it home for everybody. The last thing is I will start how I began. I want you to be patient with people. Love on people. Love on kids. Number 2, be flexible, because you know things are going to change. In fact, we're starting the first 5 days in class, and then the next 4 days, the following week, we're virtual. So it's going to take flexibility. And then the last thing, give grace to people. People make mistakes. I think that's the biggest thing. Really be cognizant of what we're trying to do, and that is relationships with kids and parents and families, and really making a difference. I just wanted to say welcome back. I'm really glad you're here. I had an opportunity to spend time with a couple of young men that were really inspirational. And I will tell you that that's really what makes the difference, is what we do every single day. I wish you well, and I'll see you soon. thank you, and it's a great day to be a refer. Well, gosh, it has been a full day. I really appreciate the work that you guys have done. You know, I don't have a whole lot for you, but a lot of our staff have these new tags, these car tags, so I want you to make sure that you put them on your cars and wear them with pride all over town. Now, Kyron's, he's going to be driving all over town to make sure that his is seen. And Blake, I expect the same from you.
Absolutely.
Now, I heard just recently that somebody was driving too slow, and you actually wrecked your car because they were driving too slow.
That's not,
that wasn't the story.
That's not what happened.
That's not what. We'll save that for later. But I want to say thank you very much for helping me today. I got so much out of it. I know that both of you are going to be highly successful, and I really appreciate you spending the time with me today. So thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Mendenhall.
You bet.